Okay, it's Wednesday evening, 6 o'clock. My name is Ben Hykes. I'm going to be speaking on wisdom and knowledge. And I'm going to be reading from Ecclesiastes. Okay, and I'm going to be reading from the NIV version of the Bible. As it says, the words of the teacher, the son of David, king in Israel. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors, at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning to its own on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the stream comes from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear is full of hearing. What has been, will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, or even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. So he's saying that everything that was here, everything we see right now, has already been here. And then this is back Solomon. Back even before Christ, Solomon wrote this. So when God created the heavens and the earth, everything was already here. And he says, look, this is something new. Now there are discoveries like going into the ocean and something that has never been seen before, but it's nothing new because God created all things. Now he's going to be talking about wisdom. It says wisdom is meaningless. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. I applied my mind to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the sun. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much wisdom and knowledge. When I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly, but I learned that this, too, is chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, and the more knowledge, the more grief. Now, in Acts, when Festus, Paul went before King Agrippa, and Festus was there, and Paul was talking to King Agrippa about his experience with the Lord and about salvation, and in Acts the 26th chapter, verse 24, it says, at this point, Festus interrupted Paul's defense. You are out of your mind, Paul, he shouted. Your great learning has driven you insane. So, let's get back to Ecclesiastes. But that's what Solomon was saying. Much wisdom comes with sorrow. Much wisdom comes with sorrow because people who don't have wisdom looks on you like the more knowledge, the more grief. Wisdom and knowledge, those without it don't understand it. And you have to have a hunger for knowledge and wisdom. And then Ecclesiastes 2 starts out, says, I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind still guided me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. See, he was testing to see what was right, what was wrong, what was good, what was evil. He said I tried to cheer myself with wine and embrace folly. My mind still guided me with wisdom. So he kept on to wisdom. He kept a hold of wisdom while he tried to understand what these few days of our lives would bring. Says I understood I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born in my house. I also owned many herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasures of the kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers and a harem also, and a harem as well. The delights of a man's heart. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all this, my wisdom stayed with me. He was searching. He was searching to find out what makes people happy. But then he keeps saying that this is folly, this is madness. It says, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. In other words, he kept seeking pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labors. And this was the reward for all my toils. See, all that he amassed, all that he acquired and made for himself. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. He didn't find any pleasure, lasting pleasure, in what he had done. So then I turned my thoughts to consider wisdom and also madness and folly. What more can the king's successor do than what has already been done? I saw that wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. The wise have their eyes in their heads, while the fool walks in the darkness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes both of them. In other words, then he says, then I said to myself, the fate of the folly will overtake me also. What then do I gain by being wise? I said to myself, this too is meaningless. For the wise, like the fool, will not be long remembered. The days have already come when both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise too must die. It's a time for all of us to die. And then what? Then whether you're wise or a fool, we're all going to die. So then he goes on to say, so I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless and chasing after the wind. I hated all the things that I had toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to the one who comes after me. And who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish. Yet they will have control over all the fruits of my toil, into which I have poured myself, to which I have poured my efforts and my skills under the sun. This too is meaningless. In other words, something that you have built up, like people leaving their estate, what they've accomplished. Maybe someone had built a business to a high level, and then they leave it to their children. One thing I think of right now is the Walton family, like Sam Walton, that owns the Walmart stores. Sam Walton built up the store. He had a reputation. He had ways that he wanted things to be done. But then he turned it over to his children. But then what Sam Walton had built while he was alive has almost no resemblance of what Walmart is today. At one time it was Buy American, United, buy things made and built in America. But that's not the way it is now. I could think of other things, but that's someone that built a grocery store. He put his heart and soul into it. I think of Kressler's, Shippensburg, another example. And when he was alive, things were run the way he wanted. But then after he passed and sold it, or his children took over, wasn't long after that the Wise Company bought the store. After they built the big store out on Route 11, outside of Shippensburg, then Wise bought the company, and people still refer to it as Kressler's, even though it's Wise. But still, people build a name for themselves, and then they pass on and then they're quickly forgotten. That's what he's talking about here. So, and who knows what, verse 19, and who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish. Yet they will have control over all the fruits of my toils, into which I have poured all my effort and skill under the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. For a person may labor with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and then they must leave all they own to another who has not toiled for it. This too is meaningless and a great misfortune. You see, people that do not toil and labor for their efforts, it was just given to them, most likely they don't appreciate it. So it says all their days, their works is grief and pain. Even at night, their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. So I know what he's saying is, you think about these things that you've accomplished in life, and then you think about who's going to take over when you pass away. And you can plan and think about all the grief and pain that you've done. But then after, you might stay up at night and think about it. Not even at night, their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. Then it says, a person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too, I see, is from the hand of God. For without Him, who can eat and find enjoyment? So we should be thankful what the Lord has given us, and then eat and find enjoyment. To the person who pleases Him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, He gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. So to the person who pleases God, He gives wisdom and knowledge and happiness. But the sinner, He gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand over to the one who pleases God. In other words, the sinner, the one who does not know God, will also have to turn his over to someone. And so Solomon says, maybe it's the one who knows God, who pleases God, that acquires it. So then, chapter 3 says a time for everything. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to start at chapter 3, verse 9, and read a few more verses here. What do workers gain from their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of man. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. You see, when he says he has made everything, okay. He has set eternity in the human heart. So we are eternal beings. When we pass away, if we know God, we'll make our home in heaven. If we don't know God, then when we die, those who do not know God will find their place in hell. But that's eternity. He has set eternity in every human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. No one really knows what God has done. And I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live. That each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is a gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing can be taken from it. God does it so that people will fear Him. So what God has done, He has done so people can and will acknowledge Him. For whatever is already been and what will be has been before. And God will call the past to account. So we are responsible for what we do. And what has already been has already been before, or was already done before. And I saw something else under the sun. In the place of judgment, wickedness was there. In the place of justice, wickedness was there. I said to myself, God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. See, when we pass, I believe we are judged every day for our actions, what we do. But there is a time when when we pass it, when it all will be brought to account and will be judged for every deed that we do. And I also said to myself, for as human, God tests them so that they may see that they are like the animals. I think I read this last week or a couple of weeks ago. They are like the animals. Surely the fate of human beings are like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so the other dies. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over animals. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place, for all come from the dust, and to dust all return. Who knows if human spirit rises upward, and if the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? So I saw that there was nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because that is their lot. For who can bring them to see what will happen after them? You see, like I said, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, that when I spoke about the spark of the spark of life is the Spirit, and I quoted this scripture, and I said about the God created all things from the dust of the earth, and He gave them all the breath. But when He breathed into the human, He made them a living soul. So maybe the American Indians are right in to say that animals have spirits, and all living things have the breath of life, the Spirit. But God breathed into Adam, and it says he became a living soul. So that's what makes us different than the animals. So let me see here. Well, here's in Ecclesiastes 5, it says, when you make a vow to God, do not delay in fulfilling it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vows. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest to the temple messenger, my vow was a mistake. Why should God be angry with what you say and destroy the works of your hands? Much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore, fear God. So when you make a vow to God, make sure you fulfill it. Make sure you do what you say. That also goes with if you make a vow, if you make a promise to someone, keep that vow, keep that promise. If you borrow money from someone, or from a bank, or from a loan company, make sure you pay it, and pay it on time. Because said, why would you why should God be angry at what you say and destroy the works of your hands? In other words, if you borrow money for a car or for a house and you don't pay it, they'll come and take that. Or if you owe a large sum of money for some other reason, that's what happens with bankruptcies. I know there's certain things that are unforeseen circumstances that may arise, but if it's only because of not fulfilling your duty, your vows, then they'll come and take it, what you've worked so hard for. And then, same chapter 5, and verse 18. This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat and to drink and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. So he says, what you have accumulated, what you have accomplished is a good thing. And seldom do people have enough time to look back on what they've accomplished. There are times when we can reflect, but he said that he gives them that they would the enjoyment of what they have accomplished. And then in chapter 8, in verse 16, 17, when I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the labor that is done on earth, people get no sleep day or night. Then I saw all that God had done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all their efforts to search it out, no one can discover its meaning. Even if the wise claim to know, they cannot really comprehend it. Even today, when people are searching and trying to find out the meaning of life and try to know wisdom and knowledge, no one can comprehend what goes on under the sun, despite all their efforts to search it out. No one can discover its meaning. It says, even if the wise claim to know, they cannot really comprehend it. So it all seems... All right, then Ecclesiastes 9. And I saw under the sun this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it, surrounded it, and built a siege works against it. A huge siege work against it. Now there lived in that city a man, poor but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom. But no one remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength, but the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words no longer heeded. In other words, Solomon witnessed something profound. A king came upon this city, and there was a wise man inside. He was poor, but he had wisdom. And whatever he instructed the people in the city to do was what saved the city. But there was no one to write down his words or the actions that was done. So he said that was meaningless. I mean, the wisdom is better than strength, but the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are no longer heeded. Nobody remembers what the man said or what was done to save the city. So what good was it? A quiet word of the wise is more to be heeded than the shouts of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. There's a few more scriptures I want to read, and then I guess we'll close. So in chapter 9, verse 13. Starting with verse 13. Oh, that's what I just read. Okay. And then from here on is talking about other things, and there's also chapter 12, verse 1. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come, and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dim, and the cords, then the clouds return after the rain, when the keeper of the house trembles and the strong man stoop. He's talking about when you're getting to the end of your life, and then this is the end of the verse 6. I'm going to read from verse 6 to the end of the chapter. Verse 6 to verse 14. Remember him. Remember the Lord. Before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl is broken. Before the pitcher is shattered at the spring and the wheel broken at the well. The dust returns to the ground and the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless. This is how he opened the book. This is how he closes it. And he said, not only was the teacher wise, but he also imparted knowledge to the people. He pondered and searched out and set in order many proverbs. The teacher searched to find just the right words, and what he wrote was upright and true. The words of the wise are like goads. They're collected sayings like firmly embedded nails given by one shepherd. Be warned, my son, of everything in addition to them. Of many books, of making many books, there is no end, and much study wearies the body. I know Pastor Mike has written them maybe around 300 books, and it says, of many books, there is no end. I'm sure he's not done writing books yet either. And much study wearies the body. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Of all the things that he said, that he says, fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including everything hidden, every hidden thing, whether it's evil, whether it's good or evil. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. So of all the wisdom that Solomon had, that's what he said. He said, the conclusion of the matter is to fear God and to keep His commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. So if you was wondering what your purpose is in life, what you're supposed to do, that's the thing. Fear God most of all. Come to realization, saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, and you will have eternal life. So let us end in a word of prayer. Our Father and our God, as we come before you at the close of this meeting, we give you thanks for the many blessings upon us. We just pray that you would speak to your people, speak to those who do not even know you. May they acquire wisdom and knowledge, for wisdom and knowledge only comes from you. Otherwise, everything is meaningless. It has no meaning unless it comes from you. So be with us, guide and direct us till we meet again. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.